when I was growing up, you know, I would hear these stories of people who were like really in the life, you know, like they were doing bad things. They were like, this is bad. Probably gonna go to jail. And I heard this story one time. This dude, everybody got locked up, but there was this trap house. In case you're not aware, a trap house is where illicit materials are sold. I just, you know, sometimes you might say trap house, or there might be someone who's like, so booby traps? Like, is it the trap door situation? Like when you walk in, watch out for the wire, you're gonna fall down to the basement? No, I mean drugs. I mean the buying and selling of drugs. And so this trap house was known for being pretty busy. It had become so busy that they had bought some property, you know, several blocks away and opened up another trap house. Business was booming. Things are going very well. Whenever you are selling so many drugs that you have to buy property, we are entering documentary territory. Most trap houses are really just dudes playing video games until somebody knocks on the door. Like, it's not a busy day, and you gotta stay at trap house the whole time because you don't know when someone might get the itch. And so they opened up another trap house, but this location was not as poppin' for some reason. They must have opened it in a bad neighborhood. Can you imagine? Can you imagine being all drugs, be like, I'm not going over there though, that's dangerous. And so even though they opened another location, and even though they tried to tell people, hey, you can come here or you can go over there, people liked the original trap house. It stayed just as busy as ever, with some business going on at the second location, but mostly it was here, right? And, okay. Let's just call him Jerry, all right? And Jerry ran both trap houses. And he did a pretty decent job, you know? Kept his books, kept his finances, really, like, he knew his inventory, you know what I mean? He could have made a great store manager at any grocery store. There was this dude named Twan, and Twan found out about these very popular trap houses. Well, one popular, one not so popular, right? And he made a plan to rob the trap house, the main one, the lucrative one, right? So his plan for robbing the lucrative trap house was to basically set up a diversion at the one that wasn't as busy. So he basically faked a robbery at the one that was not as busy. He had some guys go over there, bang on the door, act like they had guns, they were about to break in, because he knew it would make everyone call Jerry. Jerry and his boys would go over there, you know. By the time they get there, those guys have already left, and then the main trap house is left defenseless. They break in, Twan and them break in, they steal all this money out of the trap house, right? Take it back to their place. Now their place is a stash house. Stash house should be self-explanatory. If I've lost you at Stash House, I cannot help you. But the trap house has been robbed, everything's been taken back to the Stash House, okay? And then Twan and his boys thought they had made a killing. They were like, this is great. No one even knows that it was us, because they had planned it very well. They planned it all the way down to the detail of if those guys who did the fake robbery got caught, they wouldn't even know who hired them, right? But Jerry's no fool. Jerry started asking around, and he could kind of tell that some of these guys were lying, some of these guys weren't lying. He traced everything back to Twan. And so he set up a plan to rob Twan's stash house. to go in there and not just get his stuff back, but take the rest of whatever was in there. And his plan wasn't as meticulous. He just sort of ran up in there with a lot of men and guns. Now, what he did do is he waited. He learned the routine. He learned who would be there when. It took months. And then finally, he was like, we're going to do it on Tuesday. They never paying attention on Tuesday. We're going to run up in there. It's only going to be like 5 of them. If it's 15 of us, I don't think we'll meet a lot of resistance. It's not like it's their money. It's Twan's money. And so that's what they did. They broke up in there, went ahead, zip-tied everybody, and took everything, which took several trips. The people at the stash house did have to watch themselves be robbed for quite a while. Imagine you over here, you're not gonna get away with this. Then you think they've left, they come back in the door. Left all this right here. And so then one of them, being new to the lifestyle, being a new, some would say prospect gang member, was so appalled at the theft that when he freed himself, lacking all presence of mind, called the police. This man called the police. It was like they ran up in there, they had guns and everything. They had a gun in my hands. He's telling all this to 911. They took everything. They took the weeds. They took all the money. Took my favorite Glock. And, some people were duct taped and everything, duct taped over the mouth, zip tied behind everything. So when, as soon as he called 911, he started freeing everybody else. And as soon as he ripped that tape off, they're like, "What is wrong with you? We got to get out of here now." And so then they all left. They all ran up out of there because the police, catching wind that there was a robbery of the stash house, made themselves available immediately. Now, they got out in time not to get caught. They got out in time to see the police raiding the stash house from a few doors down. And that's the thing, is like people say, crime doesn't pay, or like criminals are dumb or whatever, but there are some very smart people who, for whatever reason, enter a certain lifestyle, choose to stay there, or maybe it's all that they know. And if criminals were so dumb, they wouldn't be fascinated. We are fascinated by career criminals. We're fascinated by people who do things that aren't just illegal. They have the gall to try to pull something off that has so many different entry points to danger. Like, just in the past few days, the Louvre was robbed. And I have not been able to settle. This is amazing. Okay, so if you're not familiar with the Louvre or the Louvre or whatever, it's one of the most visited museums in the world, and people go there and then they act like they've been changed by art. And you ask them what they saw, they can't name anything or anybody. They were just like, "No, the Mona Lisa was there," looking unimpressed. Well, there were these robbers that broke in. And they broke in dressed as construction workers, right? They had actually rented this like powerlifting vehicle that had a ladder that would bring them up to the next level where they could cut in, because they brought tools to cut in through the window and enter that way. They didn't want to just come through the front. And it made sense that they were dressed as construction workers, as Louvre is under construction. Permanently, I guess. It's always under. Why is Europe never finished? Europe always, all of Europe, always, unless you're out in the country, there's always like, oh, we gonna fix this road. We've been working on it since 1822. But that's y'all's fault. Y'all keep changing the roads. We just, right when we finished the cobblestone, y'all were like, no, it's asphalt now. And so look, they break in, and they break in with these power tools. They had like an angle grinder and everything. And that's when the alarms were going off and stuff. And then they get in through this museum window. And the part of the museum that they're in is where these rare crown jewels are being held, right? They didn't bother with the Mona Lisa. There was a crowd, there's a line. You'd never make it out. People be like, no, I want to see. And people keep, they keep criticizing the security. They keep criticizing the people that were doing security. But those people did approach them. They were like, hey, you don't. you better not. Because what is museum security really supposed to do? Let's be honest. Let's be real. If you work security in any format, they should arm you with as much as it takes to protect what's supposedly valuable. Think about this. When you see someone working for like Brinks, right? And they bring a Brinks truck to do a deposit for a bank. Let's say a whole grocery store is like, hey, we got like $250,000 that we need to transport over to the bank to make our deposit. The bank is like, don't worry, we'll send somebody. They hire Brinks. Brinks comes over. They have a truck. And not just a truck, like a bulletproof truck. And then they get two people. They get two people to make sure nobody knocks you over the head when you're trying to grab the bags and put them in the truck. They get two people, and not just two people, two of the biggest people you've ever seen. Like two people that are so big that it's like, you are the gun, right? And then I think they give them a gun. They always hold in their pocket. Maybe they don't have a gun, but it looks like they have a gun. And they don't give them cuffs because they don't plan on taking any prisoners. And then they get in there, Brinks always handles a drop like they are being robbed. Like they always handle the drop the way a bank robber would handle the drop. Because I used to work at a grocery store, and Brinks would come in and they'd be like, so where is your safe, or when you, hurry. And we'd be like, oh, it's over here. Okay, it's over here, all right. And then the one would get to work putting, the other one just watching us. I'm ringing people up. I'm putting more money in the till, and they were still like, but you might try anything. I don't know you. And then they would leave, and they'd leave all fast. And then they'd run into the truck, throw everything in the truck, and then they would always peel out a little bit, which made me uncomfortable. One time they came and did a pickup, and I was like, y'all sure that was Brinks? Because they were a little squirrely. But then for some reason, there are times where you're supposed to protect, or you're supposed to hold guard of something, and you're giving less and less resources as you do it. Like, you look at a Brinks security guard, and then you look at like a mall cop. They're like, you get one flashlight. I guess shine it in their eyes or something. If you hit somebody hard enough in the head with it, the glass will break. That's something. But nobody gets done dirtier. Nobody gets done dirtier than museum security. Museum security, not only do they give you nothing, no flashlight, they don't even give you a stapler to hit somebody with. They give you nothing. All they give you is a dress code. They're like, hey, just show up in all black. Nobody will mess with you. You show up in a black shirt with a black suit jacket and some black pants and black shoes, people think you John Wick. They won't even approach any of the art. Because truly, what is a museum security guard supposed to do? I go to a lot of museums. I try to go to a museum in every city that I do a show, if I can, right? And I've been in these museums, beautiful art. And then you see, you get a little too close, and you see this thing go off, this like little, you don't even know where the alarm is, but like it'll just, that's the too close alarm. Because it's not like a real alarm, it's just annoying, and it goes off until you back up. So if you're a pointer, I go to a lot of museums with pointers. Everyone I take to a museum love to point. It's like we all three again, and they're like, I like the flap. As soon as you hear, somebody works for the museum, comes over, black everything, with an attitude. Could you not? Ma'am, back up. They love that hair. Back up. Give it a little space. Let the art breathe. And you want to know who a museum security guard's arch nemesis is? Because it's not like a grown man. It's not a grown woman. It is any child. Any child will ruin their day. Because I don't know what it is about the frequency of the alarm, but if you're 4, you can't hear it. If you're 4, you're like, I was at this museum one time. This security guard was in a true predicament because this child was out here touching everything. He was touching to the point that it sounded like their alarm was going off to the tune of Mary Had a Little Lamb. And finally, the security guard started like chasing his child around, and not like really chasing him, not like Dennis the Menace chasing him, but just like following them around, hoping to maybe this kid's gonna go back up to their parents or something and be like, can you please hold your child's hand or something, because they've been touching everything. Got applesauce on everything. Because as a security guard, what are you gonna do? You can't grab this kid. You can't actually grab this. I know that sounds crazy to anybody who was born in any era before now. You have to kind of let this kid put applesauce on all the art, because if you touch this kid, you've committed murder. So if you snatch this kid and even hold their hand so you can find their parent, you are basically killing them. So you have to like let them kind of do it, but then follow them around, but then not touch them, but then make sure they don't touch anything. It would look terrible. And so finally, this security guard just started running interference on every item. This child was walking up, getting ready to touch a sculpture. Security guard get in there. No. Just trying to box him out of every room. And then finally, this kid, realized what was going on. Felt like it was a game. So this kid is like, oh, you want to play? I love to play. Playing's my favorite thing. Playing's basically my job. And so he running interference. There's a painting. And finally, this kid gets boxed in. And even the security guard's like, I don't know what to do now. Because like, this would be when you would like snatch their hand and be like, hey, is your child not with you in the museum? I might have them. But he was like, doesn't want to touch his kid, but doesn't want the kid to touch anything else, but then is in the corner, but then is also a grown man cornering a child in a corner. Just because you're at work doesn't make it look better. All this kid has to yell is stop, and you going straight to jail. I'm your only witness, and I'm not really here right now. And so this kid boxed into the corner, and you can see the kids having fun. Kids over here. Nowhere to go but under. This kid slipped under his legs and ran away. This man turned around. Started chasing after this kid even more, and then the kid went to the only room he hadn't got applesauce on. And was next to this painting. I don't really remember who painted this, but it was a huge, huge painting of a ship in a storm. And it was one of those that was like, it was a marvel because of its scale. You know, so it's not like one that you just hang up and 6x8, whatever. This thing was huge. It took up almost the entire wall, which meant he could definitely reach it. This kid walked up to the painting, and now the whole thing is a game. Touching the stuff's a game, trying not to get caught is a game. This kid's having fun. He thought museums were boring. He's having the time of his life. This kid standing next to the painting. And admittedly, I was also running after them so I could keep watching. I didn't try to help them at all, but I was like, I gotta see the rest of this. Like, what you gonna do? This man gonna run out of breath soon. Security guard gets in the room, huffing and puffing. And he just goes, even the kid for a second was like, ooh, are you? I might have killed a grandpa. I don't even know. And then this kid goes in his pocket and lifts an applesauce covered finger. And I was like, it's been in his pocket the whole time. Children are disgusting. This kid been running around with a pocket full of applesauce this entire museum trip. And then Unc running security goes, don't. This kid, no words, no emotion in his eyes. You can tell he gonna grow up to be a bad person. This kid, applesauce covered finger just went, and so if a security guard is defenseless against a child, what do you expect them to do against actual robbers with angle rods that they just used to break into the second floor window? Because the security ran up on them, no, hey, get out of here, none of that. And then they went, vroom, vroom, vroom. Security was like, you know what, let us help you. Everybody out. Everybody out. Everybody get out now. Security made everybody get out but them. Don't you see these men working? Get out. They over here on time crunch. And you over here, ooh, look at the jewels. Get out. In fact, there was a news report that cracked me up. I laughed so hard because the security report, there was this person who, I don't think they were like head of security for the Louvre or anything, but they were basically like, it is museum security's #1 job to make sure the people are safe, and that's what they did. They made sure the people were safe. And I was like, you are changing the narrative right now, because anytime I got too close to a painting and I heard the and then I had somebody come over, it didn't seem like it was for my protection. You know what I mean? It wasn't like they were running up, hey, that one, that painting, that wakes up. Don't get close. Please. And so then, robbers start grabbing everything, grabbing these like Napoleon era empire crown jewels, right? They grabbed so much, they grabbed too much. They actually grabbed so much, they dropped one. They dropped one of the crowns outside. And this is gonna sound dumb. This will sound dumb, so bear with me because I know it's gonna sound dumb, but I don't think it's dumb, all right? I thought, truly, even when I went to museums, for as many museums as I go to, I've been to museums in Europe, I go to museums here, I go to every museum that I can. I thought for certain that when you see something in a museum, that under certain circumstances is a replica. I can tell by your reaction that some of y'all think I'm dumb and some of y'all think what I thought. I'm telling you right now, when I would go to the museum, I would admire the brushstrokes, I'd admire everything, but I would be like, this is the fake one though. Like this has to be the fake one. And I thought that because if you remember, right before 2020 and even after the pandemic, you would have activists that would go to museums. These, climate activists would go to museums and they just throw like tomato soup on supposedly priceless paintings, right? They would go up to like a Van Gogh and be like, blah, and then they glue themselves to the wall or something, and then they would be like, this is why we did this, and you will have to listen to me for as long as it takes to unsuperglue my hand from the wall. Because people who are climate activists feel like no one is listening to the point where the only thing that will get any attention or like stop people for a second to listen to them is just extreme acts that knock you out of whack. You know what I mean? Just things that you go, what? What? They did what? Why did they do that? And then they get to explain. It's like the better version of canvassing. Because they tried to canvass. They really did. Everyone that cares about the climate tried to canvass, and what did you do? You walk by them. They were like, do you have a minute for the planet? And you're like, I'm headed to work, please. I was with a friend one time, and look, I've stopped plenty of times. I can't stop every time. And so they were like, do you have a minute for the planet? And then my buddy was like, nah, we're good, and kept walking, have a good day. And this dude got really bad. This dude canvassed and was like, you on the planet? You don't have a minute for the planet you on? But that was happening a decent amount. There were these supposedly priceless paintings. They were getting vandalized, people throwing Campbell soup on them and everything. So then I was like, surely a museum would not allow Campbell's soup to get thrown on the real one, like the regular one, because the museum was always super chill about it. The museum, they would like throw tomato soup on a Van Gogh and the museum would be like, stuff happens, we gonna get it off. You gonna what? You gonna get it off? Because when I got close, when I tried to smell the painting, I heard, and then you came over, no smelling. It was get it off, no big deal. Or you would see things like I don't know about you, but the tomato soup that I eat got a little oil to it, and you throw it on an oil painting, it seems like it might leave a stain. I have no idea. But then you would see the museum come out and be like, no permanent damage was done to the artwork. And I'm like, how? I've dropped suits that were clear on my hoodie before it had the stain forever. How's this 200-year-old acrylic painting fine? It must be a fake. I used to think that, look, if you go to a museum and you see just like you could touch it, that one can't be real. But if you go to a museum and it's behind glass, that's the real one, because they bothered to protect it. Why are you just bothering to protect some pieces? That doesn't make sense to me. So then in my head, I was like, those aren't the jewels. You know what I mean? That's just colored glass. These people so stupid, they ran up in there and risked their freedom for some colored glass. And then the French government came out and said, priceless items have been stolen from the Louvre. And I was like, that's the real jewels? Y'all didn't run any armed security around the real crown jewels? For a split second, I felt like it was my money. I was like, what are y'all doing? Ooh, I need to sit down. Price, you said it was priceless. And then right after saying it was priceless, they were like, it's about $100 million. I was like, oh, seems like a price. You said priceless for a day and a half, and then immediately y'all were like, I think 103 probably. At least round up to 110. And then, in my opinion, museum handled it wrong. You know, they were over here freaking out. Everybody, the French government, they got everybody on it. They got like their version of the FBI. They have the local police. They have everybody on it. They plastered all the jewels that were missing all over international news and everything. If I was trying to save face, let's say I was head of museum security, I was trying to save face, I would come out to the public immediately after the robbery and be like, y'all, that was Banksy. Y'all know Banksy played too much. But this is where I wish that they had done a better job of being creative, being inventive, you know? You've just been robbed, one of the boldest robberies that we've seen. And you are the most visited museum in the world. Why don't you just see this as a W? You know what I mean? Instead of freaking out and shutting down the whole wing and staying closed for a day, all you gotta do is put that tape around the crime scene and make that an exhibit. We all want to see it. Bring people in. Make the security guards that did do their job, the tour guides, just be like, it was 4 of them. They ran up in here. I was like, hey, get out of here. And they were like, ving, ving, ving. I was like, you right. All right, I'm gonna go. But I'm telling everybody, and that's why I'm telling you now. And yeah, you can see the glass right here. Take a piece of glass home. You can take a piece of glass home if you want. The jewels used to be right there. That's crazy, right? Jewels used to be just like, and the light used to hit it like that, but then they brought the grinder and they so. But they were real. That's why I'm doing this now, or else I'd be fired. Oh, it sucks. It does. It sucks because, like, it's just gonna turn museum security into TSA. You know what I mean? Because look, this was, as far as museum security goes, this was their 9/11. So if you think you're just gonna roll up in there and have a good time, that's not what's gonna happen. You're gonna show up and they're gonna be like, all right, shoes off. They all gonna have the wand now. Oh, brutal stuff. You're gonna walk into your local museum. You're not even in France. But there's gonna be that security guard, takes his job extra serious, and be like, you're not gonna get me, not today. Pants down, pants down. No, I got a check. You could have anything in there. You could have an angle grinder in your pants or something. You know, we have some very expensive cups here. I love a tour guide at a museum because then they'll tell you how expensive something is. And at least with the pottery, maybe this is me not being cultured, but some of the pottery that's in museums, and then they'll tell the story of how the pottery got to the museum, and then they'll be like, you know, this is worth easily $100,000. And I'll be like, nah, it's not. It's not. Like, it isn't. Like, it is not. As much as it is here, it is not worth that. Like the function of is, like it is here, like it exists, like it is. It is here. And it is not worth that. And you know how it's not? I know it's not worth that. I know it's not worth that. Because you had to tell me how much it was, because I thought it was worth nothing. I thought y'all dug it up and brought it here, because y'all were like, this was just in the ground, isn't that interesting? I bet you people aren't leaning over the register at the gift shop being like, how much was that clay cup? I only have 50,000 on me. Dang. I would have loved that clay cup that looked like a caveman did it. Because I need to be clear here. I'm not just trying to be rude. The one that I'm talking about, it wasn't like some beautiful African art. It wasn't like a Greek pot or something that was painted with a story on it. It just looked lumpy. It just looked lumpy to the point where I was like, even when they drank out of this, there's no way they got the water on a consistent basis. You could tell it's primitive because it looked like a cup that gulps. Looked like it pours when it wants to. Lip of it all uneven and everything. This is $100,000. I'm like, all right. You sure you didn't look at it too fast and add 2 extra zeros? Because I don't think so. There was a guy. There was a really rich guy, apparently. I don't know. I don't know him, but everybody was saying how rich he was. And he got on the Instagram to actually physically cry about the crown jewels being stolen. And he gave this whole speech about how, like, the robbers, because there's this assumption that the robbers aren't gonna be able to just sell the jewels they stole as is. There are plenty of people in the world that would pay the money it would take to sell them just as is, and maybe they just keep it and only they know they have it. But art collectors usually like to show off their collection, and so they can't tell anybody. So it's better just go ahead and maybe melt it down, sell the jewels. The jewels themselves are still very expensive. In fact, you'll see where throughout history pieces have been stolen. Mona Lisa was stolen before. Pieces sometimes get stolen, but unless you can sell it to someone, what's it really worth? And so there's speculation that already these jewels have been melted down and being sold for parts, or maybe pieces are being sold that might not be able to be traced back to the complete set. And this guy got on social and he was just crying. Dude had to be in his like 50s, something like that, and he was like, it's that crying where, okay, you know, it was like the crying you do when you're little, but you let yourself do it again when you get grown if something gets to you enough. Which is crazy, because he went online to cry, but then was fighting the crying. But he's fighting the crying to camera. But then just don't turn the camera on yet. Like, if you let it out real quick and then do your video. You doing the video, like, no one putting the video in your face right now. You doing the video and you, wait, just wait. No one asked for this video. You could wait a day. You could wait till you're over it, or you could just not do it. But this dude got, some people just cry like they choking, and it's just. And then he said a bunch of stuff, and he did say it in French, and I don't speak French, so I'm gonna paraphrase from what everybody said he was saying. But I know he said some of this because a lot of people said he said it, and then I know there's some of it that might be like editorialized on what he said, because I don't know if he said that because I don't speak any French. And then also he didn't even say what he said in French well, because he was crying through the whole thing. Like. And look, to be fair, maybe some of that was crying, and maybe a little bit of that was the accent. Maybe some of that was the accent, because there are certain people that when they speak French, they do seem upset for no reason, so then that's... It's like, was that a cry, or was that one? Were you saying one just now? Were you like, or is that you trying to hold it together? Because that's why you should have waited to make the video. That's a cry. That was not French. That one. And what this dude basically said was that you didn't just steal from the Louvre. You stole from the French people. You stole a piece of our heritage. You stole a piece of our history. And if you melt that down, if you repurpose that, if you sell that, you will burn in hell because you have stolen from the people. And I'm sure, I'm almost positive, I don't know everyone who's seen the video, I just know that I saw it, but I'm sure if you saw that video and you were from Africa or Brazil or just anywhere, I'm sure you watched it and you were like, oh no. Someone stole a piece of your heritage? What are you gonna do? Someone in Sri Lanka is like, not France. No. What are you gonna do? And look, I can understand if you are from some of those other countries, if you're from like an African country or something like that, if you're from Haiti and you see this thing, that you might be like, oh no, not the Louvre. They have our stuff too. Did they steal our stuff? Now it's gonna be harder to find, because that's also what was there. So now, oh no. Someone stole it, you know? I just love the story so much. I love the robbers. Cause look, because they even showed up. They weren't just dressed in a construction outfit. They had on the, you know what I mean, the thing, mask and top and bottom. You know, they were wearing the baklava. I don't know, I love this crime so much because it feels a lot like, it feels a lot like somebody that runs a trap house robbing a stash house, and then the person from the stash house is like, we gotta call the police. I can't believe somebody would steal from us. This is unacceptable behavior. We stole all this stuff fair and square. This was ours. And then they took it from us in an act of injustice. Stanford, y'all have been amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all. I hope you have phenomenal. I was having a conversation with a friend from back home, and so many things work in connection together to get me where I am. I saw this article about this guy, I think his name's, I might be mispronouncing it, but Brian Mwende, and he is in Kenya, and he was a lawyer. He was a fake lawyer. And he won 26 cases straight. 26 cases straight, one after the other. WW. And then they finally caught him. And now he is awaiting trial, where I pray he represents himself. That's phenomenal. 26, you got fake, and apparently it's a whole thing. I didn't know this. In Kenya, this is a whole thing. There are a bunch of fake lawyers, because he was just the first one. There's a bunch of fake lawyers that just never actually passed the bar, but they've been practicing. I guess they got a storefront or something. Like, I don't know, you just walk in and you're like, you seem like a lawyer. You know, the only way I know any lawyer has been a lawyer that I've ever worked with was the paper on the wall behind their desk. If that's fake, I have a fake lawyer. Meanwhile, in America, we have, okay. So my friend from back home that I worked with, we used to worked together, and he wasn't always on the right path, right? So he used to be involved in some gang shit and everything, and he got caught up on some drug charges. But these drug charges were not things he actually did, right? So he almost went in confident. Okay, I know I have a past, I have a rap sheet, but I wasn't even there. I did not do this thing. His lawyer graduated from Cooley. If you don't know what Cooley is at least spoken of as the worst law school in America. It is where, famously, Michael Cohen went. Michael Cohen, Trump's lawyer, who went to jail. Do you know how bad of a lawyer you have to be representing somebody else and you go to jail? Do you know what I'm saying? Trump still hadn't been to jail, and his lawyers keep going to jail. The level of crime you have to do for the jail to miss you and hit whoever is standing behind you is crazy. But it was Michael Cohen's fault. He did his crime, you know, he went ahead, went to jail and everything. But Cooley, apparently, is not a great law school. I didn't know this, but this is something that came up whenever Michael Cohen went to prison. And it was confirmed by my friend who had this drug charge, had a lawyer representing him that went to Cooley. And lawyer walks in, public defender, right? Walks in and doesn't say hello, doesn't ask him really anything, just goes, how much time can you do? And he was like, I shouldn't do any time. I wasn't there. I did. And the lawyer cut him off. Fuck all that, all right? How much can you handle? Like, in your spirit, how much time can you do? I just don't want to see you broken. You know, you're a young man. We might be able to get... And he's like, have you talked to the prosecution already? He's like, no, I haven't talked to him, but I heard he good, okay? It's like, did he offer a deal or something? Ain't no deal right now, man. Just answer my question. So they end up going to trial, right? And during the trial, there's just a random day that his lawyer and the prosecution get called up by the judge, come see me in my chambers, right? Full, like, Law and Order. And then they're gone for like 8 minutes. And when the door opens, he sees his lawyer, the Cooley graduate, walking out in handcuffs. He doesn't even know what this dude did, but he leaned over to him as he was getting walked out and was like, I did my best. This year has been really, really wild in the ways of how labor works. There have been 312 strikes this year. Different organizations, things that have nothing to do with each other. All striking, different places, right? And that tells you something. That tells you a bigger thing is happening, you know? And I think that it also tells you that you can only treat people a certain way. You can only underpay them. You can only take so much from them before they can't take it anymore. You know what I mean? Because striking comes at a cost. It comes at a heavy cost. And you should ask yourself what that means when someone is striking, which is already a cost to them, and they're doing it anyway. That means that they have so little, that they have so little left to lose, they might as well roll the dice, you know? And it's across so many different industries. Alaskan school bus drivers had a strike. I don't even know what that job is, really. Like, it sounds like most of it is in the name. And I imagine it's like ice road truckers, but with kids, you know what I mean? They had a strike. Nurses banded together and had a strike. One of the largest strikes we've seen from nurses. And that's one of those professions where you just give those people what they need. Just do it. The nurses, a nurse. And they've already in some places reached some sort of agreement, which happened quickly because it has to. I feel like maybe the executives that work at hospitals wanted to hold out. They were like, fuck them nurses, we ain't giving them shit. And then they immediately fell down some stairs. And they were like, just bring them to the table, God. Oh, God. Walgreens has strike. Yeah, a lot of people didn't know about this. Walgreens pharmacists had a walkout. There were strikes at a bunch of different Walgreens. You better give those people what they need, because without a pharmacy, Walgreens is just a bad bodega. Truly, it is. It's not great. It's just a bodega where every item is in prison. You know what I mean? That is truly devastating. I hate that so much, because then you go to a Walgreens, you go to a CVS, you got to hit the button. Now you got to wait. And who knows how long you'll wait? You know what I mean? It could be 2 minutes. It could be till the end of somebody's shift. You know what I mean? It's just, you're waiting there, and then you got to point too. That's the worst part. So now you got to point, and then you got to point at which one you need. So now they know exactly what size of condom. It's not even a whole thing that they can open. It's just like, so you want the mediums, or what do you? I've been thinking about this a lot. There's something to be said for how we talk about porn, right? I get it. Porn gives men unrealistic expectations, but I think it gives everybody unrealistic expectations of sex. Because porn makes men think as soon as they touch you with their penis, you're gonna freak out. You know what I mean? If they just put the dick on the shoulder, you're gonna be like, that's not how life works. And porn gives women unrealistic expectations of sex, because it makes women think sex is about to be like good or whatever. But the thing that's really important to remember, the thing that keeps me grounded as a person, is that I go ahead and I watch the bloopers. You have to watch the bloopers. This is the thing. When you watch porn, one of the reasons people have unrealistic expectations is because they forget that when you watch porn, you're watching an edit. You know what I mean? Those are very sexy people who have sex for a living, but they're also doing the best of clips right now. They're not showing you everything. When you watch the bloopers, you realize even porn stars, they get down like us. There's a lot getting puffed out. There's a lot of just like lots of things that humanize the experience. You know? One of my favorite ones, it wasn't even really a blooper, it was just like an outtake, I guess, just some extra footage. And there was a guy who had what I can only describe as too big of a penis. Now I know that makes it sound like I got a small penis or something, but truly, for the safety of the actress involved, this was untenable, okay? I was worried for her, all right? So anyway, they're going at it, and they're making all the noises you'd expect. It's him going, oh, him like, ah, like just a non-stop of that. And then out of nowhere, this man stopped, walked away, walked over to the crabs table, and grabbed a Snickers and started eating. And I was like, you know what? Yes, we need to incorporate more snack breaks
into sex. That should actually be the Snickers commercial right there. It should be somebody, These are both good. I like them both. You know? One of my favorite bloopers though was this. There was once again a guy, very well endowed, going at it, just really giving it his all, putting all of his creative energy into the scene. Okay, and then he's like really like all this stuff like that, and then he clearly catches a Charlie horse. And I looked like the DiCaprio meme for a second. I was like, yeah, me too. I do that all the time. We should really stretch before we get, wow. And then my man is over there, and you can see him trying to push through it. Just like, and then at one point, when he has a Charlie horse, he goes like, which I guess is the same noise he makes when, And so then she's like, did you? And he's like, no, so then the actress sits down and you see her from the front for the first time, and it is funny because she's not looking at the camera, but the camera's still rolling, and he over here limping, trying to stop it out, and she just goes, y'all have been so great. Thank you so much. I'm Josh Jonhson.